Selamat Pagi and good morning. This is the ninth installment of the Selamat Pagi podcast, and this is Jackson Wehrli, your host. And this week we are going to cover the week of November 13th through November 19th, 2017. This was 2 years ago. And we're going to start off on my very first preparation day in Malaysia. And on this preparation day, we woke up and we went to the what's it called, the emailing kadai, and what they would do is they would have these little internet cafes where they'd have these computers set up, and you'd pay 5 ringgit for an hour or so, and you would get to email, and we would do that. We were allotted 2 hours of emailing time, and then we met up with Elder and Sister Wilson, who are the senior couple in Matong branch at the time, and they were stellar. They were just awesome. I love the Wilsons. They were great. They were very helpful in the branch, always doing things, giving rides and teaching and doing what they could to help out in the branch, and it was they were incredible. Well done to the Wilsons. And they picked us up and they took us out to this nature reserve, this wildlife reserve in Kuching, Sarawak. And it was there that we saw several wild orangutans. And the reason I say orangutan and not orangutan is because the word orang hutan actually comes from the Malay word orang hutan, or the Indonesian word orang hutan. And the word orang, O-R-A-N-G, orang, means people or person. And the word hutan, H-U-T-A-N, means jungle or forest. And so when you say orang hutan, you're saying the jungle people. And that is where the word orangutan comes from. They're actually pronounced orangutans. So that's a little fun fact for the day, that the word orangutan actually comes from Indonesian and Malay. And it was incredible. They were right up next to us. They were eating all little fruits, swinging in the trees. Incredible animals. And this wildlife reserve was not enclosed. So these orangutans were not guaranteed. You were not guaranteed to see an orangutan, because they would come and go as they please. Because it was not an enclosed space. And so that was incredible. That was my first preparation day in Malaysia. And on the following day, on Tuesday, was my first district meeting. And it was at this district meeting that I met several of my good friends in my first area. Elder Mansfield, of course, would later become one of my best friends, and Sister Lopepe and Sister Egan, both very close, good friends. This is where I met Elder Taylor and a few others. Elder Hapirai as well. He would again become one of my best friends. And it was an incredible experience. We would meet at the KDC, which is the Kuching District Center. It's the big, tall, white church next to the City One Mega Mall in Kuching. And that was my first district meeting. We'd have those every Tuesday. The Wilsons would pick us up and take us, and we'd have a good time. It was also this week that that I learned how to talk on the phone in Malay. Funny story. My trainer would call a member that we were going to make an appointment with, and go to their home and teach them. He would call. He'd say hello. They would respond hello, and then he handed the phone to me. And I had no idea what to say. They had no idea what to say. It was just absolutely hysterical. I couldn't understand them. They couldn't understand me. and it was a struggle. And he did that to me over and over until I finally got the hang of it. Um, we met with Brother Dungat, Brother Abon, and Brother Mobile, and Brother Sirai. And when I was on the phone with Brother Sirai, so he likes to speak Iban mostly, and the Malay when he does speak is very quick. He's very very good at speaking quickly, and so Brother Sirai would talk so fast and use so many Iban words that I had no idea what he was saying, and it was hysterical. Every time I talked on the phone with Brother Sirai, it was just a mess. Um, Now, Brother Dungat, he is this nice old man, um, just one of the most darling old men you'll ever meet. He's Iban as well, and and we would go to his house, and he was very grateful to have us over always to share a lesson and teach him a few things, and we teach him new words, gospel words, and vocabulary, and he would always feed us, and he's just a great, great guy. And he was easy to talk to on the phone because he talks so slow and so simple that it was very easy for me to talk on the phone and practice with him. And so that was incredible. Um, Brother Abon, he was hilarious. I love Brother Abon. He lived way out on the other side um, from Kampong Silkandes. He was on the other side. Um, and and Brother Abon, he made us Milo one of the first few times that we were coming over, and Milo is that incredible drink that they don't have here in America. And 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 one time Elder Ng, my trainer Elder Ng, accidentally drank from Brother Abon's cup and had no idea what he was doing. And I started laughing. And he looks at me and he says, "What's funny?" And I said in Malay, I said, "That's not your cup." And Brother Abon laughed, and I laughed, and Elder Ng laughed, and Brother Abon's wife laughed, and we were laughing there for like 5 minutes straight because it was just, we couldn't get over it. It was so funny because it was just a simple mistake, and I was able to say it in Malay, and it was just one of those moments you had to be there for. Um, but yeah, and then I'd like to also talk about Sister Gentia. And Sister Gentia lived in Kampong Siokandis, which is on the other side of Brother Albon. And Kampong Siokandis, I'll explain a little bit more in the next podcast, is great. We'd lock our bikes at Brother Kian's house, and we'd walk through the jungle all the way over to Sister Gentia's house. And she had the most adorable infant daughter. Just the cutest baby you will ever see. Um, and uh, and her husband, Brother Genie, he was a member, and so we were teaching his wife. And it was tough because she couldn't stay all 3 hours of church because she had to take care of her child, which was a totally reasonable excuse. She'd have to leave the child. She'd have to leave with the child and feed the child and put the child to sleep, and it was hard to get her to stay for all the 3 hours of church, which was a requirement if you wanted to be baptized. So she had been taught for about a year when I got there, um, or for about 9 months ish, maybe a little bit over. But just an incredible lady. I used to always tell her in Malay that she'd be good friends with my mom if that ever was able to occur, because my mom would love Sister Gentia. She's just incredible. Now I'd like to explain that I had in this first week my first bowl of kolomi. Now let me explain to you what kolomi is. A kolomi is a noodle. Mi is the word for noodle in Malay. Mi means noodle. M-E-E, mi, means noodle. And so they'd take these really thin noodles made right there in Sarawak, and they'd boil them in this really hot water, right? They'd take them right out of the boiling water once they were nice and soft. and they would dump them right into this really cold water, then back into the hot, then back into the cold, then back into the hot again, and then they'd serve it to you and put all kinds of oils and some sauce and some pork with it as well, and it was absolutely delicious. But the reason they went from hot to cold was it gave the noodle this nice springy texture. And I would just like to emphasize the fact that you can find kolomi nowhere else in the world, only in the city of Kuching. Even in other places in Sarawak, the kolomi was not the same. Kuching kolomi is got to be one of my favorite foods, and you can only get it in Kuching, nowhere else. So, absolutely incredible meal, and this is the first time I ever experienced such an amazing meal. And on Sunday, Brother Ulat, he was a member there. He had all these pineapples in the back of his car, and he gave one to the elders, me and my companion, and it was probably one of the biggest pineapples I have ever seen in my entire life. It was huge. It was at least 2/3 the size of my torso. It was so flippin' big. Um, and so that was kind of cool. Um, and that will wrap up my first full week in the mission field in Matang, the area of Matang in Kuching Sarawak, Malaysia, East Malaysia. And that will wrap up the 9th installment of the Selamat Pagi podcast. Thank you for listening.